Well, it's funny that you mentioned sometimes I dive over into your genre because I haven't done it that much lately. And this time I did, although I would classify this as a sci-fi horror movie. I went back and revisited the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I love this movie. I love Kevin McCarthy, especially in it. It's directed by Don Siegel. I did a little research on him. Apparently, he was a bud of Clint Eastwood's and went on to direct things like Dirty Harry and Escape from Alcatraz. I didn't know that. I assumed that maybe this was directed by Jack Arnold, or somebody from the 50s. Because we've kind of had 50s on the brain for a while. Yeah. It was written by Daniel Mainwaring, but it's based, of course, on the classic story by Jack Finney called The Body Snatchers. Now, they couldn't call the movie The Body Snatchers. Do you know why?
No.
Because 11 years prior, Universal, I believe, did a movie called The Body Snatcher, directed by Robert Wise, produced by Val Lewton, starring Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, based on the Robert Louis Stevenson story, The Body Snatcher. Which is something obviously we should cover because listen to that pedigree.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they eventually came up with the title Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I think is a lot more snazzy and fits the movie perfectly.
Oh, much.
Yeah.
The paranoia that's in that movie is great. So
yes, lots of subtle subtext of McCarthyism in this movie for you out there. Well, I'm not going to go into details because this is just a short part of our podcast. But once we do this, and we will do this, I guarantee you we'll do a show on this. As a matter of fact, I think we should do a double feature because I like the 78 version just as good as I like this version, pretty much.
I do too, actually. The Donald Sutherland one. Yeah.
And it's got Leonard Nimoy in it. This one, however, stars Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter, King Donovan, and Carolyn Jones. Carolyn Jones is the only other person I recognize in this movie because, of course, she played Morticia Addams on the original Addams Family. Kevin McCarthy, I can't say enough about him in this movie. And I read a little history that he was jealous of his friend's career because he was doing big movies and and McCarthy was doing B movies, science fiction B movies. And that friend was Montgomery Clift, who was currently making Raintree County with Elizabeth Taylor at the same time. However, no one remembers Raintree County and everyone remembers Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So I think it's funny that Kevin won in the end as far as that's concerned. The synopsis is in Santa Mira, California. Dr. Miles Bennell is baffled when all his patients come to him with the same complaint, that their loved ones seem to have been replaced by emotionless impostors. Despite dismissive denials, Dr. Bennell, his former girlfriend Becky, and another couple soon discover the patient's suspicions are true. An alien species of human duplicates are being grown from plant-like pods and taking over the town. Such a cool premise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think if you had to list the top 15 movies of the 20th century, science fiction, Invasion of the Body Snatchers would be there. And we should definitely do it just because of its influence.
I agree.
I was surprised. We mentioned it when we were even talking about I Married a Monster from Outer Space.
Yeah,
because it has such taking over the town with the pod people kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about it briefly in our last top 5 of the 1950s. It was top 5 of the 1950s, but we couldn't talk about it much because there's so much science fiction in the 1950s.
Yeah.
However, I do want to say that this scores 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think that's a solid 98%.
I would agree.
Yeah, for sure. So that's what I did. I tiptoed. I stuck my toe in the water as sci-fi.
Start the car, Johnny.